Okay, moving right along. Let's part 8 here. We're going to design and model the heel and tail blocks. After this, we'll get on to the bracing for the top and the bottom and the sides, and then we're going to need to create the kerfed lining. And at that point, we have enough to start assembling the guitar. So let's get into this. Shouldn't be too long. It'll probably come as no surprise that we're going to continue the same theme for the tail block and the heel block of using the bodies, the top, the bottom, as cutting tools to shape our blocks, to cut in the radius at the top and the bottom. We're also going to use our sides here to position this tail block before we cut it. So let's get started. Let's back up our timeline. I'm going to bring it back to this point here. We're going to bring in our guitar parameters as always, and we're going to, in this case, bring in our top and bottom parameters. And I've also derived the body that we created in the last session. I believe that was 7. And we're going to use I brought in the whole body instead of the top and the bottom individually, because in the body everything is positioned exactly where I want it, the top and the bottom in relation to the sides. We're going to use the sides to position the block. We're not going to use a joint, but I'm going to use the term join. We're going to join the block to the body where we want it by using a point-to-point move. And then we're going to use the top and the bottom surface bodies from those models to cut the radius in. But first we have to create the solid body. So first thing we're going to do is draw a sketch. I just got this space mouse. I've wanted one for a while, but I really kind of felt like maybe I wouldn't be able to use it, especially it's meant to be used in your left hand, and I'm very uncoordinated with my left hand. But at school, my instructor put one on my computer at school for me to play with, and I play with it, and I find that, I can use it. And boy, now that I have it, I don't know how I ever lived without it. So anyway, let's get to drawing this. Let's go ahead and edit the sketch. And the fairly simple sketch here, so it's like, you can make any shape you wanted. So, but basically what I did here is I started with a construction line down the middle, and I put another construction lines at the points where I wanted my angles to end. And then I drew on one side and mirrored it to the other side. So I just created my shape here and dimensioned it to my variables. I have my width, my tenon width, which is my space between here for my slot for my tenon. My depth of that is my tenon width. Oops, let's not mess those up. Is my tenon width minus the width of the sides. So for my slot for my tenon, and I made this, I just divided it in 2 and then put my angled cuts to the center. What else is important here? This slot up here at the top is where we're going to cut in the slot for your driver to be able to adjust your tension rod. So we're gonna put in a filleted slot at the top to be able to access that hex nut on the end of the tension rod. What else is important here? As usual, extremely important that we fully dimension all black lines and no white dots. If you have any white dots, that means they're not fully dimensioned. You don't want this to be able to move any way except by changing parameters. And so it's very important. I've used a lot of things here. One of the important things about dimensioning, about constraining, is that to only use dimensions where you really care about the dimension, if you can, and use relations instead. So I've used a collinear here to make sure these two were in line with each other. I used horizontal constraints to get them horizontal. I used another horizontal constraint here between this point and this point to lock that in. I've used a center point here to lock this into the center of this. The only place in here that I used a dimension that I would rather not is right here. Is ideally I wouldn't have to say that this is 3/16 of an inch to the center line in order to get these two lined up, but because of the mirror and the way I did it, and I don't have a separate line here to put a midpoint to then tie these lines to, I've used a dimension. So there might be a better way to do that one, but in general this isn't too bad. I've minimized dimensions and maximized relations, perpendicularities, horizontals, and verticals, and equals, one side equals the other. And so that's it. This is our shape. We're going to extrude this. When I extrude it, I'm going to extrude it a little extra long. I'm going to take my height and I'm going to add an inch, because when I position this at the body, it needs to be a little bit taller, so we've got room to cut it. So, and I'm cutting in a negative direction, so I've got a negative height minus 1 gives me essentially height plus 1. I don't know if that made sense. Use my space mouse here, and yeah, you see I can be a little awkward with it, but it sure gives you some options over just using the keyboard and the mouse. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to get our sides. I am going to go ahead, maybe prematurely here, I'm going to get my offset. On my top body, I've got my top and my bottom surface bodies in here. But this top is too high because it's on the top of the top and I need it to be on the bottom. So first thing I'm going to do is do an offset and create a one that's shifted down the thickness of my top. So just minus thickness for the offset, and then once I have that, I'm going to turn off the offset that I derived, and now I've just got my top and bottom that are in the right position. My bottom one I didn't need to adjust because the surface was already on the side I needed it to be on. That makes sense? Hope so. Questions down below if you've got any. So then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn off my top and bottom for now, and I'm going to position my block. So first I'm going to flip it around. Yeah, okay, that's right. I'm this way. I'm going to flip around 90 degrees to get it oriented in the right direction. I could have drawn it that way, but when I drew it, I didn't realize what orientation I'd be in, so it doesn't really matter. Then I'm going to use a point-to-point move, and I've selected, let's back that up. Let's back up here. I'm going to do a move. Let's turn off our sketch. We don't need that anymore. Modify, move, copy. I'm going to choose this point. Point to point. I'm going to choose that point right there. And then I'm going to turn this around here, and I'm going to choose that point right there. What did I do? Oh, I didn't select my body. So I'm going to select my body. Why isn't it letting me? Heel block. Alright, so let's cancel it. Let's try that again. Move. Select our body. Do a point to point. I'm going to select that point. That point. Boom, and move it there. But now we need to shift it up. So then we're going to do a free move, and we're just going to grab this and we're just going to move it up a little bit, kind of split the difference. Whoops, I didn't mean to do it that way. Control Z that. and then do another move just to move it up. But don't use, like I just did, use the arrows. If you use the thing, it'll move around freely in space. The arrow will move it simply up and down, so you don't get off that face again. So just split the difference, say okay. All right. We'll go ahead and delete these two because I duplicated them. Then we're going to do the split body. So we're going to turn off our sides now and turn on our top and bottom surfaces. And we're going to do a couple of split bodies. So we'll go to modify, split body. Our body to split is our heel block, and our cutting tool is the top. You gotta do them one at a time or they don't. If I select them both, it won't cut all the way through on the bottom one. So you have to do them separately. Do the top first. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So in this case it didn't, so I just doing two separate split bodies. So we just split that, and we're going to turn off the split that it created. Where is it? This one, turn that off. And then we're going to do another one, split body. We're going to choose this, and this is going to be our cutting tool. Oops. Get our cutting tool here and cut that one. Turn off that body, and now we just have, so now we can turn off our top and our bottom. And we have our block, but now we need to cut, now we need to finish our space for our tenon. So delete those, and let's move down the timeline to here. We're going to do a couple of sketches. The first one, we're going to just draw in our tenon, just like we did on the heel block, on the tenon itself. So we're going to draw that in here, and then we need to draw that in so that we get the this thing at the bottom. We need to extrude this in, or not extrude. We're not going to extrude it. We're going to actually do it a different way, but we need to fill this back in down at the bottom, and we need to cut our holes. So I need one sketch out here on the surface, and basically you're going to just mimic the same sketch we did on the neck, on the heel transition, but for the length, we're going to take our tenon height, and we're going to subtract out the top, the width of the top, because we don't there. So that height is going to be minus the, that's interesting, that should be a parameter and it's not. So thickness, we want to get our thickness ref and put it in there. And then otherwise, oh, that's interesting. I might have a problem right there. That probably should be minus the thickness as well. Minus thickness. And this should be minus thickness. There. That should put those holes in the right place. And what else? So this needs to be fully constrained, and this needs to be closed. So when I hover over it, it's highlighted. That shows us that we're a completely closed loop. Once we have that, down here at the bottom as well needs to be a closed separate loop. Okay. Then we're going to create this same sketch on the back wall. So let's turn that one off, turn this one off. And we're going to just, what we're going to do is we're going to just use projections. Let's turn the body off a minute so we can see better. So I projected in this to the back wall. But the bottom isn't in the same spot, so we can't project the bottom in. We have to draw, no, I'm sorry, I did project the bottom in. The distance on the sides is what's different. That's what, you can't project the sides in because they're not as long as they are in the back, because the back is got that radius on it, so the back wall of this is a little taller. So you're going to project in the curve at the top and the straight line at the bottom, and then you're going to draw in 2 vertical lines, like that. I actually don't have any constraints on them. It doesn't look like I needed them. Yeah, because they're tied in here. So you actually didn't need to dimension or constrain anything. Just simply draw that in. Now, because it's got that radius on the bottom, we can't just extrude this body to the back. It would leave a gap in the bottom. I can demonstrate that. Let's turn the heel block back on. And if I were just to extrude this, you can see that it leaves a hole in the bottom, which we don't want that. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to patch this. So we're going to start with extruding. We're going to do a surface extrude on this arch at the top, the bottom of the tenon, to the back wall, because that one is level. You know, we want that to go straight in, so we can extrude that one, surface extrude it. But then we need to use a couple of patches and a loft. We need to use 4 patches and a loft to finish this off. So first we're going to patch the front. We're going to select those 4 curves and patch that. And then we're going to patch the side, the back. In order to patch the back, we have to turn off our body and just come around to the back, and we're just going to select this and patch it, these same 4 curves. Then we're going to loft the bottom, and we need the body to do this one, I believe. Let's turn the body back on. And because we need the edges, these side edges, in order to loft it, I believe. Let's look at what I did and see if I'm right. No, actually it's just profile to profile, it looks like. So we didn't need the body on at this point, and we just loft that bottom. And that takes care of the curve, right? Because this is radiused. You know, it looks flat, but it's not. It's got a little radius in it. So that's why we used a loft there to maintain that curve, both from front to back and side to side. Then on the sides, we're going to patch each side in using those 4 edges from the sketch and those other lofted surfaces. And then same thing on the other side, we're going to patch that. And now we have completely closed. So now we can stitch it. Oops, why didn't it like that? I must have touched something. Cancel that. Let's just do an undo. Nope, something's broke here, so let me fix it real quick. Let's just back up. Let's just go here and let's do a patch. And we're going to select, let's turn off chaining. And we're going to select this, 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 and this, and patch it. Okay. We'll delete that one. Not sure why it broke, but it did. Then we're going to, I just, if you notice the, you have wood grain on all of them because I have an appearance on them, but some of these are not, like the top is gold and the other side over here is gold. So I just did a reverse normal. Well, and then something changed, so what we want is cancel. We're going to select that side and that side and just reverse normal so that they all look, and it's totally irrelevant because in just a second we're going to stitch them and it's going to turn walnut anyway, so it was kind of unneeded. So we're going to stitch all of that together. Say OK, and now we have a solid body. And then we're going to turn back on our heel block and we're going to do a combine. Let's turn that around. Oh, why didn't the combine? Missing tools. Combine. Something I just did change something. Let's go solid. Our stitch works, so this is a solid body now. And we're going to do a combine. We're going to choose target body is this, tool body is this. We're going to do a join. Yeah, I'm not sure why this one broke. Okay. Yeah, it gets goofy. Oh, and then this last extrude is just extruding out these holes. So you might recall on the sketch that I had drawn those two lines that I said were for the slot for the tension rod, but things changed since I drew that sketch, and we can't do it that way anymore because now we have a radius top, and so that sketch isn't even on top of this anymore. It's off over here in space someplace because we moved the body away from the sketch. So and even if it was there, we couldn't use it because this is a curved surface now, and we can't select that as a plane to draw on. So what we need to do is draw a sketch on the face of this and then do an extrude cut, and so that's what this looks like. What I did was I selected, let's turn off this sketch. We're going to select that inside surface right there as our sketch plane, and we're going to do a sketch, and that sketch is going to look like this. It's simply a 3/8 inch hole here, so we've got a 3/16 inch line on each side, constrained to horizontal. And I drew a line between the two, and I constrained that line to the midpoint. After I projected in this surface line right here, there's a surface right here, and I projected that in, and then I constrained that upper line to that midpoint. And then I got two lines, 3/16 of an inch long, and then I've got a 3/16 inch arc, just a 3-point arc, and then that's it. Once I have that and I have it fully constrained, it's 3/8 of an inch wide. That's constrained between these two lines, and then I'm going to finish sketch, and I'm going to go do a cut extrude. But since this, before I show you that, this surface is curved and it arches in an upward direction this way. So this extrude's going to leave a remnant in here. But that's, to get rid of that, we simply select it, turn the sketch off, select that surface, and hit the delete key, and it goes away. And that may be a little unorthodox, but sometimes with these curved surfaces, you kind of got to be a little unorthodox, I guess, to get rid of those. So that's our completed tail block. I'm sorry, heel block. Okay. So let's save that, and let's go get our tail block, which is very similar. A little simpler because we got less to do on the tail block. So just to run through, I do have a surface here, an offset that I don't need, so I'm going to delete that. I won't even explain it. I'm just going to get rid of it. Pretend you didn't see that. Yeah, oh yeah, that's right. And it's going to mess up my positioning as well. So let's back up the timeline. So same thing. Bring in our parameters and our body, and then we're going to create a sketch just like before. Just a simple sketch. I don't think I need to spend a lot of time explaining this here. We've got our width of it, our heel block width. This is our tail block depth, and you know, it can be whatever shape you want. This is a 45-degree angle. If the dimension was done a little bit differently, or it would read that way, so let's change it just so that it, oops, I thought deleted it. Delete that, put a dimension on here, and let's choose this and this, and that gives us a 45-degree. Just so that's just a little clearer, I think. Same thing, fully constrain it. This back line is mid-pointed to the origin. Vertical, horizontal, equal constraints, whatever it takes, get it fully constrained. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to offset that top. I'm sorry, first we're going to position it. So let's turn on our sides. Turn those on. Over here, let's turn that up this way, unselect it so you can see, and we're simply going to position this. I've already done a 90-degree turn here with this one, and let's turn on the wedge as well. And so then what I moved it to was the center here on the top of this block. Oops, we want to point to point. Point to point, select, this is the body, select that point right there, and then for our target point we're going to select that point right there, and then we just shift it up, so just like we did on the heel block, so that it's up high enough so that our top and our bottom can cut it. So now we can turn off our sides and our wedge inlay, and we can turn on our offset top and our bottom. Same thing here. I did an offset off the top because it's too high. It's at the top of the top, and I need one from the bottom. So and then we're going to just do our split bodies and delete those two remnants, and that's our tail block. And that's it for the heel block and the tail block. So this was a short video. Next up, we'll use these when we assemble the body. Then we'll use these again. But for now, we're going to set these aside, and we're going to move on. The next installment will be the bracing, the top and bottom bracing, and perhaps the side bracing if it doesn't get too long. The bracing's a little more involved. It'll take a little while to walk through that. So I'll see you on the next one. That's a wrap on part 8. Next up, I'm going to tackle the bracing for the top, the bottom, and the sides. It might get long, so I might have to break it up in two, but we'll see about that. So see you down the road.